where we're going to go ahead and get started with our panel discussion. We know folks will be coming in and out. Again, I'm your moderator, Jermaine Ruffin, the Senior Vice President of Neighborhoods at Invest Detroit. And this panel in particular is one that I am very excited to have a collection of wonderful folks who I've had the pleasure and the honor of working with under the Strategic Neighborhood Fund. And Eddie Carrington is going to be joining us here shortly. And we're going to talk about the impact of SNF on their projects and getting into the development realm. And then we're going to talk about something that I'm really excited about, which is the possibilities under the Strategic Neighborhood Fund 3 in the areas where you all are making your investments. What do you think are some of the top opportunities in your neighborhood? So we're going to start off with introductions. I'm going to have you introduce yourself.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Martha Potere. I work for the City of Detroit on the Neighborhood Economic Development team.
Hi, I'm Paula Andrenin, and I'm the owner of Candela Detroit on Southwest. It's on 25th and Verner.
Hi, I'm Brandon Hodges, principal and founder of Tribe Development. We're a local real estate consultant and developer headquartered in Jefferson Chalmers.
Eddie Carrington, lead developer of Flux City, and we're headquartered in the city of Detroit as well.
So we're going to start off with a really quick question, which is, with SNF, how did it impact your project and you getting into a development opportunity in the city of Detroit? And we'll start with you, Paul.
Okay. Well, I mean, it has been an amazing help to be able to get the additional funding because being a first-time developer, I did have some capital gaps. And if it wasn't for the SNF fund, I was not be able to complete it. We actually did bought 2 buildings. One is where we have Candela Detroit, and then right next to it, we actually bought an all vacant funeral home. But we done a full rehab, again, uplifting the whole neighborhood in the black. We pretty much finalized the apartment upstairs, and downstairs we're going to be doing a convenience store to be able to give opportunities to the ghost kitchen we're building at the venue, and give other entrepreneurs more opportunities to be able to sell their food constantly.
Awesome. Thank you, Paula. Brandon?
Yeah, so I think Eddie spoke a little bit to it in terms of just feasibility, right? Because, order of magnitude, we're closing on a $4.5 million mixed-use renovation, but the building's only worth $1.3 million, right? So you're kind of starting from a deficit to start, right? And so, development's governed by a very simple economic equation, and when the math ain't math, you need subsidy. So I think for us, it was an opportunity to kind of do our first deal as investors. I worked in development for a while, but to actually invest our own money into a deal, we had to have some level of predictability that deal was going to be solved, right? There had to be an economic rationale to be in it in general. And so SNF, in terms of subsidy, partnership, community engagement capital, was really vital that we were able to kind of see some predictability in a very small scale kind of neighborhood way where most neighborhoods across the city just don't have that visibility.
Excellent. Eddie?
I concur with what Brandon said. My building is appraised at $3.5 million. It cost $8.2 million to, develop it. And so, at the end of the day, gap funding is needed in order for us to, as emerging developers and developers that focus our energy and effort into the communities, into the neighborhoods, not specifically downtown, midtown, but we're talking, the true communities of the city of Detroit. It takes that type of financial support that SNF provides us in order for us to make it pencil out. And when we say pencil out, it's not to a point where the developer is able to make a mint. I always like to point out that these different funding mechanisms allow for us to get to a point where we can get this project to the closing table and hopefully get it to a point where it's cash flowing and covering its debt service. But due to the amount of gap funding that is needed in order for us to get us to that point, don't expect to see us driving around in, the Lamborghini anytime soon.
In the future, it'll happen.
Maybe in the future.
I'm grateful to have Martha Potier here, who represents the city of Detroit. And I want you to just kind of talk about your team and your office, which has been critical to helping us navigate the red tape, so to speak, the city of Detroit. But the Neighborhood Economic Development Office, you've been an integral part of these developments and working with these developers. So could you just kind of speak to that a little bit and what you bring to the table?
Sure, yeah. The city of Detroit has had a public-private partnership team on the housing side for many years. Shout out to Josh.
Shout out to Josh.
And anyone else who's on that team that I may be overlooking. And the team's been really effective at bringing housing and mixed use and, in the past, commercial developments online by helping to shore up all potential sources of capital for the project, explore abatements and incentives, often with our colleagues at the DAGC, additional subsidy through the MEDC, and not only kind of get the project to a healthy financial position where it can close, but also then once shovels are ready to go in the ground, expedite the permitting and licensing process to the best of their ability. And so our team was really created in that image to do the same for our commercial and mixed use projects. We tend to tag team with our P3 colleagues on the mixed use projects. So we're really trying to provide wraparound support for these developers to do everything from purchasing the land, especially when it is city owned, in some instances DLBA owned as well, to ribbon cutting. To make sure that they have what they need to get the project done, because we know time is money, and the longer the project languishes trying to shore up its capital stack, trying to get its permits, the more expensive it gets, and the likelihood of that project succeeding goes down, unfortunately. So we're there to rise to the moment with the developer and get them what they need.
There's been a number of really great innovations that came through lessons learned under the Strategic Neighborhood Fund 1, the Strategic Neighborhood Fund 2. This Neighborhood Economic Development Office at the city is one of those. It's a fairly new team. They've been together, less than a year?
Just a little over a year.
Just a little over a year. But it seems like you all have been in this position for like 2 to 3 years, for as hard as you all are working to make sure that those innovations of cutting down on the permitting time is important. There's also another innovation that I didn't get a chance to shout out, but I want to, because I see him sitting here in the crowd here. I'm sorry, you took a bite of pizza, but I'm still going to say it. Ryan Hardiman and the EBR Fund and his team are one of those innovations that, working with developers, seeing the need for additional capital to support on the operations side, to help folks grow and expand, has been extremely important to the work that we're doing. And we know it's going to be a critical component as they're out fundraising now as well, as it's going to be a really critical component of SNF 3 and something that we're looking forward to being in partnership as we continue to grow our fund as well. With that in mind, I have a question for the developers here. What are some of the opportunities that you see moving forward in the neighborhoods that you're operating in over the next 5 years with the ability to work with maybe the Strategic Neighborhood Fund and other partners?
Well, for myself, definitely once you kind of become a developer, you want to continue, right? So that's a big thing of it. And two, is looking into continue to sort of map out and trying to, enhance the neighborhood based on what you're already creating. Because as you start working on a project, you realize there's additional needs. And, I do want to give a shout out to Marta and Chris from the city, because, they have been extremely important for me to be able to, as an emerging developer, to be able to get through and understanding the process, the permits, the timing that it takes, the proper documentation that you need to create when you go and do a hearing and things like that, maybe for a seasoned developer, it's like, oh, that's easy stuff. But as you're starting out, it is really critical to be able to have somebody kind of on your side to help you out. So thank you. But yeah, as a developer, like I said, it's really realizing the more you're in the neighborhood, the more that people start engaging with what you're doing, more opportunities comes, and it will continue to enhance. And, we hope to continue to improve the neighborhoods.
So I would say, personally, one thing is community education. I think engagement is at the core of what we do as strategic neighborhood funded deals. And I think we have an incentive that brings us to the table to do that. We went through a fairly long engagement process, my partner Damon Dickers of the crowd, with trying to secure a restaurant tenant for our project, The Deco. And I'm noticing that we have a very unique opportunity to instill in communities more education around what development actually means so that they can actually negotiate better with developers, right? Like, there's an accountability that we adhere to because we are neighbors in a neighborhood, right? We should be accountable to doing certain things. And I think to do that the right way, people have to know what's at stake, right? And frankly, like, most neighborhoods don't. And I think this is indicative of maybe CBO processes, but like, we have to kind of let that gestation period take hold to really understand what community needs, what's feasible, and then like triangulate between the center bet. And my moonshot wish for SNF is some sort of liquidity mechanism, right? Because I think in the city of Detroit in general, you renovate a building, you build something new, you're not selling that in year 3 or 5, right? Any place where we're going to build equity, where we're going to move on to the next thing, I don't necessarily want to hold things for 15 years.
Yeah.
I need to get out of the deal and reinvest the capital. And I think compared to other cities, we just don't have a secondary market that allows us to kind of extract the value that we're creating. So if there were a mission-focused REIT of sorts or something, we have to be able to move in and out of deals, create value, and build our firms, because it takes a lot of money to invest in these projects from day one. And if I got to spread capital across 5 different projects and never see a dime back from an exit event, the company's still got to scale at it as it should.
Absolutely. Thank you. 100% agree. My request for SNF is to piggyback on one of Brandon's many great points, is the need for us developers to have more opportunity to provide commercial tenants with financial support. So tenant improvement, right? I read in the Cranes Detroit, I think it was today or yesterday, they came out with an article that basically said that tenant concessions are at an all-time high. And there's a reason for that. It's really, really hard, for a commercial tenant to open a brick and mortar. It's really challenging. It's scary. It's 2024. Everything is online. Nobody is going out, sitting down for lunch or dinner anymore, unless you're downtown at after a Lions game or a Tigers game. Go Tigers! At the end of the day, there needs to be some type of ability from a developer's stance to be able to provide pretty much everything a tenant is going to require from a commercial standpoint, in order for us to give them the greatest chance at success, and in order for us to be able to attract the right tenant that the community is demanding for us to bring to this site. And so one of the biggest things that has been keeping me up at night is finding a food service tenant for the space that I have allocated at the Ribbon for a food service. I've had 2 lease agreements signed. I had numerous, LOIs signed with a number of tenants that I thought were capable of being able to accomplish their vision, but they weren't, because mostly due to the build-out costs associated with fleshing out a kitchen and front of house and things of that nature. And, I don't blame these tenants for, kind of getting cold feet due to the fact that, especially when we're talking food service in this example, these are very hard businesses to operate in 2024. So yeah, that's just one of the rambles I have for an ask for SNF and for the funding partners to be willing and able to provide more TI dollars in order for us to in turn flow that down to the tenant and give us an opportunity to give them a better chance at success.
Absolutely. Thank you all for sharing those comments. And one of the things that, under the Strategic Neighborhood Fund 3 that we've been talking about and looking for partners to execute is that technical assistance and that wraparound support past the ribbon cutting, right? We've done a really great job as a city of bringing great projects to the forefront and getting to those ribbon cuttings. And that secondary piece, which we are looking to really fill that gap under SNF 3, is the TA, whether it's helping someone with their inventory if they're a restaurateur, helping folks or connecting them to resources, accounting resources, those types of things that can help make these corridors sustainable and resilient, because that is what we're absolutely going for, is for the resiliency of these neighborhoods, and not just as a term we just throw around, but as a real impact on the ground from when we come back and we're shopping summer after summer at the same spots, same restaurants, and hopefully Eddie and in your spot, when you get that restaurant tour, it'll be like Cheers when I walk in. Hopefully, everybody knows your name.
I got a vision. Jermaine's Bar. It's Jermaine's Cafe. Let me know if you're interested. We can make it happen.
Something like that. You might have a partner in me, man. We'll make it happen. So now we're running up on time. So I just want to say I want to close by giving you all the opportunity to say anything about the impact and what excites you about your work moving forward and the opportunity in Detroit. And it could be, in anywhere in the neighborhoods. What are you excited about seeing? Martha, we'll start with you.
Well, I'm thrilled that SNF is continuing because without it, we're just not going to see as many projects as we've been able to see. And I think that we've, SNF 1, those first 5 years, definitely a lot of lessons learned. I know that was alluded to earlier. And I think that we're in a place where we have the infrastructure in terms of manpower to really deploy SNF judiciously and effectively. And so I'm really pleased at the chance to continue to seed more projects and, get more things open in the neighborhoods because that tends to be where people feel like they have the fewest options. So that's really important to me.
Thank you, Mike. Paula?
Yeah, for me, it's very exciting to be able to, with what I'm doing, starting to see that a lot of people are thankful that they don't have to travel to other parts of the city or other actual cities outside of Detroit to work. I constantly now, I have especially when I do events, but even on a day-to-day, I have multiple employees now. And they're so thankful because I'm like, oh, I had to go downtown, or I had to go to Lincoln Park, or I had to go to other cities to be able to find work. And to see that excitement and that support from our neighbors is very, very nice because we're making a difference. So to me, that's the biggest thing that gives me, excitement to see is that we're creating those opportunities, not only for myself, but in my family, but also to the whole neighborhood.
I would say, we're fortunate that we work across a handful of different neighborhoods. And what I'm encouraged by is the fact that we didn't have to be the first mover. We work alongside Eddie. We work alongside East Warren Development. We work alongside Live 6. And by in the next 2 years in each of those neighborhoods, you'll see like 4 or 5 new developments and businesses that are really going to catalyze what a commercial corridor should look like in the city. And for me, I think that's the biggest thing is just when all this hits, all the proof will be in the pudding, right? I think we're going to see more walkability. East Warren is heavily car-laden garages. You're going to I had a daughter, she's going to be able to walk down the street, right? Like those things matter in terms of just building up communities. And I think we need to get to that kind of inflection point of critical mass, but it's coming. And I'm really excited to see when it hits.
Gotcha.
A number of things I'm excited about, but I'm really excited and impressed by the push that the partners, the funding partners, the city of Detroit has for emerging developers. So developers of color more specifically. And I really don't see what I was able to do with the ribbon being done anywhere else other in the country. And so I say that because I'm excited to see more individuals, more developers, aspiring developers that come after us do greater projects than what we're working on, further helping to build the city of Detroit in a manner that is specifically providing solutions to the neighborhoods that they're building within. And I see that as really a case study in 30, 40 years where you're going to look back at Detroit and you're going to say, how were they able to make this happen? How were they able to support all of these emerging developers and have all of these successful projects and, spark these communities in the manner that Brandon is mentioning? And I'm just excited to really kind of see it all flesh out and be recognized, because I don't think it's being highlighted as much from a country, from a national standpoint, but I think it's coming to that point, and we don't necessarily need that to happen. But all I'm saying is, that to me is really what I'm most excited about. What really is happening. I'm sorry, I'm scatterbrained, I'm rambling. So that's what I'm excited about. Hopefully you got something from that.
Hey, we did, Eddie. So thank you. I want to give our panelists a big, huge round of applause, and thank you. These are the folks, along with our great partners at the city. I know I've mentioned it a number of times, HRD, PDD in the house, executive level, and the neighborhood economic development team. But these folks here, in partnership with them, are leading the way for neighborhood development in the city of Detroit. And I think I cannot wait to see the success that you all have, the generational wealth that you're building for your families and for your businesses and your organizations, but more than anything, the resiliency that we plan to be a part of for this great city of Detroit. Thank you all.